I think we are good to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Taylor Summer. I'm the marketing manager here at Minoan, and I'm thrilled to host today's session. Curious before we get started, how many Minoan members do we have in this call? If you're a Minoan member, drop a note in the chat and let us know. And for everyone else who is new to Minoan, we're a free centralized ordering platform that allows host property managers, designers, boutique hotels to furnish and replenish their spaces with top brands on a budget. So now time to introduce today's special guest, Justin Ford. He's the Director of Short-Term Rental Safety and Certification Programs at Breezeway. With extensive expertise in short-term rental safety, Justin has revolutionized how vacation rental property owners integrate safety into their designs for a secure and standout guest experience. We're so excited he's here today to share his invaluable insights with all of us. Just a few housekeeping items before we dive into the good stuff. The chat is open if you simply want to react to any of his takeaways, but we'll also have a brief Q&A at the end of Justin's presentation. So feel free to put any burning questions into the chat and we'll try to address as many as possible at the end. Everyone is muted by default, but please remain muted throughout the presentation. So without further ado, let's begin. Justin, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can tell our audience a bit about yourself and all the incredible work you're doing at Breezeway.
Awesome, thanks. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump right into the presentation and get this started. So if you don't know me, my name's Justin Ford. I am a short-term rental safety expert. I do this stuff all over the world. As far as I know, I'm the only one who really does this. Is a wonderful gentleman, Eric Thibodeau, with Safer VRs, who does a little bit with vacation rental safety. But generally speaking, in the world, there's not a lot of us. Considering that there's millions of short-term rentals all over the world, it's kind of crazy to think that. You might think, well, maybe it's not that important. Hopefully by the time we get through this presentation, you'll understand it's extremely important. I've been working on a lot of special projects lately. I was on with a couple members of parliament in the UK recently, this morning, actually. I'm in Arizona today, so I had to get up early, working on some new regulations over there. I'm closely monitoring stuff going on in France, as you can see here on the screen, Tahiti, UK, Colorado, San Diego, Costa Rica, all over the world working with short-term rentals and addressing safety. A number of years ago, when I first got started in this, several months would go by and someone would mention to me something that I recommended resulted in the prevention of an injury or saving a life. And that was really special. I got to tell you, it happens daily now, daily. I learned this morning of a pool drowning that was sorted in Florida because of some action some people took based on some recommendations I made. So it's why I get up every day. It's why I hope all of you are here. Statistically speaking, someone's going to take something away from this presentation today that will prevent an injury or save a life. And so that makes that all that much more important for you to be here today. I've been doing some fun stuff. You're going to see the Olympics come on soon. I was over there. I got to go into Eiffel's apartment, part of a promotion they're doing for renting out Eiffel's apartment during the Olympics. So that was a pretty fun thing I just did recently. But part of the reason I'm in this, and this is something a lot of people don't think about. Some of you may not have noticed a few years back, you know, a big celebrity was sued for a significant amount of money for injuries at his rental property. I can't tell you a lot of names, unfortunately. There's a lot of NDAs out there, but I do go in and inspect a lot of the properties that you see sometimes promoted as, you know, the Taylor Swift rental, the Barbie house, that kind of stuff, because there's such high profile rentals and they know that the owners have a lot of money and people love to fall down the stairs, slip, trip, fall, have things happen to them. And that should be a wake-up call to everybody else. We, if you're here in America, we live in a litigious environment. People love to sue, and they love to sue for issues that have happened in short-term rentals. That's me in the most expensive vacation rental in the world, in Beaver Creek, Colorado. That's like a $2.5 million Chihuly glass chandelier over the table, just to give you an idea. Some of the different properties I get to see, it's pretty amazing stuff. But this is the problem that we have in America. That safety training, that's mostly, probably all of you, that's the last safety training that you have had. And the whole goal here in kindergarten, first grade, when they come in and they do this safety training, is not to give you those red plastic hats. It's so that you're familiar with what a firefighter sounds like, sounding like Darth Vader. I was a firefighter for 15 years. That's what we did. I used to do this all the time. You go in there and you put your mask on and you breathe, and just so the kids know that you're not scary. So if you come into the house to rescue them, they're not going to run away from you. They know you're a cool guy. You're there to help them out. But that's it. My guess is that's the last time any of you had any safety training, and that's the problem. The home is the most dangerous place. We know that. Statistically, forget short-term rentals, over 600 million or 600,000, excuse me, injuries in short-term rentals. There's millions of people go to the hospital from homes every day, every year around the United States. The home is the most dangerous place. More than 50% of all incidents we Americans encounter are going to be slipping in the bathtub, falling down the stairs, cutting ourselves with a knife in the kitchen, tripping in the garage, all those type of things, bumping our head. I'm 6'5", I bump my head all the time. So the home is the most dangerous place. Now we're putting people in a place they're not familiar with. And there's no book. There hasn't been a book. There's nothing out there that says these are the principles of designing safe and stylish short-term rentals. No one's ever done that before till we started doing that here at Breezeway. And to date, we're still the only ones that focus on that. There's nothing that's been out there to say this is what you need to do. And because of that, we're falling into these traps. This is one of the bigger traps that I've been seeing lately, and it's frustrating me. People see stuff on social media and they think, wow, they're doing that. I'm going to do that too. That's a real Airbnb listing, by the way. And actually, it's my understanding they have pulled that. I had a long conversation with a fire marshal in Missouri where that's located. He's like, I had no idea that was going on. I mean, they're cooking the kids as the leading photo of renting the property, but people started doing that. I started seeing it in other places, and they think this is all okay. I see this on LinkedIn, on Facebook all the time. People are saying, look at these bunk beds. And people are all like, yeah, I love it. These are all great. But what's missing here? Where's the guardrail? It's federal law. You're supposed to have a guardrail that protects at least 5 inches above the mattress. And there's nothing on these top bunks. And everybody's going, this is a great design. And no, it's not. We need to speak up. And fortunately, more and more, I'm seeing people do that. I'm seeing people raise their hand and going, no, that's not. Hey, Justin, you got to see this one. I just saw this one recently too on Facebook. This one killed me. This guy listed, I think we've officially found our cover photo for our Airbnb, and all these people are like, that's awesome. That's beautiful. That's great. Nailed it. Loved it. Nice, sweet. And I'm looking at this going, oh my God, that's one of those solo stoves. Those things catch on fire. This is at a short-term rental in Texas where the guest brought it. Yes, they don't get hot on the bottom, but sparks come out of them. And when the sparks come out, they catch things on fire. This was a save, thank gosh. But when you look at the solo stove warnings, there's all these fire safety tips and instructions on there. They're not for commercial use. Hello, that's what a short-term rental is. Never leave them unattended. Don't be drinking alcohol. In the photo, they had a picture of a wine glass. So they're drinking wine in a hot tub managing a solo stove. It says don't do that. Don't use anywhere near wood. They should be at least 10 feet. There's all these warnings. And everybody's going, this looks great. No one's going, hey, doesn't look great. This is a problem. We need to speak up. Some of you might have seen this. This was an internet sensation 2 months ago. And if you followed me for a while, you know I was all over Instagram going, no, this is horrible. And what it was is this property in North Carolina, you can see there's a water slide. And I think they had almost 3 million views on this in a matter of weeks. It was all through all the media channels. And the guests could show up at this vacation rental and they could slide down the water slide. In one of the videos, you could actually see where a guest almost hit a passing boat because they were going so fast. I was on the phone with the trust and safety team at Airbnb, at Verbo Booking, going, you guys, this is bad for our industry. You need to remove this, pull this, take this off. Nobody did. And actually now when you go look for it, guess what? This is the link on Airbnb. It's not there. Oops, can't find the page. And if you go on booking.com, Parables Point, property is not taking reservations now. Why isn't it taking reservations now? Oh, we got to speak up when we see this stuff before these type of incidents are happening. The other issue that I see a lot is framing bias, and this happens a lot with the design of the rental properties. This was an Airbnb post they did just before Christmas this year, and it's great. It was all about Santa, and you could go stay at this property in Norway, and it's Santa's village, beautiful Christmas tree. The packages are all wrapped, but again, what do you see that's missing? There's no guardrails on the bunk bed. So they're saying your kids won't love waking up here on Christmas morning. I think the kid on the top bunk's going to more than wake up on Christmas morning when he rolls over there. But we see these things and we think they're okay, and they're not. This is another great example of framing bias. Again, the human tendency when faced with negative choices to choose a course of action with a probability. I mean, you can read it right here. This hot tub, they decided that the railings looked rotten and the deck looked rotten, but let's just replace the railings right now. We're going to save a little money. And so now someone coming out there goes, wow, they've updated the railings. Everything looks great. This must be a good place to go. Personally, when I looked at that, I said I still wouldn't get in it. And then you can see on the right, the deck collapsed. And unfortunately, there was a young girl in there. She did suffer injuries. She's out of the hospital. Everything's okay. This was in the Smoky Mountains. But framing bias, they're looking at this going, I didn't see the issue because all I saw was this nice new deck railings and everything was okay. This is another example. I'm not going to tell you where this property is. This is pretty high profile. But we look at this as designers, people who are looking to try and get the most money out of our rentals. And we go, wow, this guy's nailed it. He's put all these houses in, go-kart tracks, outdoor bowling, beautiful swimming pool, basketball court. This is the place. I'm renting this place. Let's take a look. Here it is on Airbnb, and it's got 11 beds. Okay, that's a lot of people. We can put a lot of people in that property. Really exciting. But now look a little closer. This is off of Zillow. This property sold last year as a 4-bedroom house. How did this house go from now sleeping over 16 guests in a 4-bedroom home? Well, what they did is they converted the garage into all these bunk bedrooms. The garage doors are behind those bunk beds. And now you start looking at this house going, wait a minute, we've put 16 people now, plus 16 plus in a house, and I don't see a smoke alarm anywhere. And their only way out, how are they getting out in a fire? What are they going to do? This is really focused on getting a lot of money quick on a property that was never meant for this many people. And so here it is. Here's a side by side in a year. We went from that little door back there to game time. And now people have to go through all these different rigmaroles to get out. So this is framing bias again, some people often might call it lipstick on a pig, doing whatever we can to get the most money out of these properties. And I'm okay with that idea. I understand people want to make money, but we got to pay much more closer attention as an industry and start speaking up and saying some of this stuff isn't okay. It's going to hurt all of us if we don't address this. So what are the most often overlooked hazards in a short-term rental? They're all the stuff that you don't always necessarily think about. Grill fires are a really big problem. I still show up at properties all the time. I'm actually at a property in Phoenix where I showed up, and there's 2 old bikes in the garage. And I'm like, you guys shouldn't have those bikes there. They're like, oh no, those are our old bikes. We thought we'd leave them for guests. I'm like, great. So the old ones you didn't want to ride anymore because they're old and they've got issues with them. You're going to let people you've never met ride them around. Slips, trips, and falls are really a big issue. Number one cause of injury for children under the age of 10 right now are furniture tip overs. And all the furniture that's sold has those harnesses on the back to secure them. They come with them. They have that packaging. You should be using those. So slips, trips, and falls. This is ideal. I know this is really hard if you're a designer to look at this and go, Justin, there's no rugs anywhere. I get it. If I owned a short-term rental, my wife owns one actually, trust me, there's nothing on the floor, it drives them crazy. But if I had something, this is what I would do. There's no point. I get it. Put them in if you want to market the property, but they create so many trip hazards around the property. There are places for carpets, and I'm a big fan of having them, but when you're in a common area like this, having the mats around the kitchen floor, all that, and I'll give you some examples. This is how much it costs. $2.26 million slip, trip, and fall at a short-term rental recently down in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. The lawyers are bragging about it. This is big business for them right now. They're able to prove negligence. They're able to say, you put a carpet in here that's a trip hazard, and my guest is now, my client's now injured, and these big settlements happen. So we've got to pay attention to these. I'm gonna pick on Verbo, and I actually saw Tim in London recently and teased him about this. He's like, I knew you were gonna say something about these. Yeah, I mean, I hopefully you all see it right off the bat. Let me circle it. I mean, come on. You're gonna walk around the deck, and I love the cow skin. That's cool. There's a place for it, just not right there. It's already wrinkled up. That's already a trip hazard. This one here, I call these talkers. Here it is in the dining room. We can put a rug under this dining room, and there's nothing wrong with that. We just need to put the right size one under there. This one extends out too far, and you can see someone's going to trip on that. That's a big trip hazard, and I call it a talker because it's already peeled back and it's talking to us and saying it's going to happen. There it is from another angle. If it was pushed over further, I'd be fine with it. If it was a little smaller, I'd be fine with it. But right there, you're walking from the living room into the kitchen. The reason it's folded back is someone's probably already tripped on it, and it's just going to be a matter of time before we have a really bad trip. I'm a really big fan of rugs like this. These flat water hog type rugs that are low profile entryway. You want to go big in the entryway. And I know Minoan has a lot of great rugs for entryways. You want something really big. Stop doing those 3x5s, 2x3s. You want something that's heavy and is not going to move around, because when everyone steps into the house, they've got a bunch of luggage. They need to be able to get into the property, set their luggage down, move about, take their shoes off, whatever they're going to do, and not have the rug, this little teeny skateboard thing under their feet that's going to slide out from underneath them. There are the right rugs and carpets for the kitchen. I see all the time where people put like a little mat in front of the sink. I'm like, what is that for? And they're like, well, it looks good. I'm like, that's it. Don't put something in front of a sink just because it looks good. They have the right type of rugs and mats that go. The whole reason these exist on the right, you can see they're tapered, is so you don't trip on them. They're heavier and they're padded. If you're washing dishes, you're cooking at the stove, you want to have the right type of mat that's there in front of you. So when you stand on that, your guests are comfortable, or you just cover the whole kitchen floor like the one on the left. One of the other big issues we see is fire extinguishers. Everybody hates them. They all think they look ugly. I will tell you all the time, I talk to people who have had them for a while in their properties. They don't notice them anymore. So get over that. They stop looking ugly after about 10 minutes. And now I was going to show it and I just can't do it. My daughter would love it if I did. There's a Taylor Swift video going around right now on Instagram where she put out a fire in her apartment in New York recently. And it was a fire like this. She didn't need a fire extinguisher. All she had to do was put a towel over it. She could have just walked the pot over to the sink, but whatever. That's not how this goes down. Let's just be clear. This isn't like, oh my gosh, I have a fire. This never happens. The reality is this. They're called unattended cooking fires for a reason. People step away, they come back in, and there's a massive fire in the kitchen. You need to have a fire extinguisher, and you need to be able to easily get it. So extremely important to be able to do that. This is a kitchen in a short-term rental that caught on fire recently, and the homeowner put the fire extinguisher in that pantry. And you might think, okay, well, that's good. That's what I'm doing. What happened here? The guest isn't going to walk through the fire to get it. The fire was on the stove. The guest can't go through the fire to get it. So we've got to think about placement. And you can't just follow code. Code says you could have a fire extinguisher within 30 feet of any cooking appliance, which includes the grill. But we need to put it in a smart location, in a place where it makes sense. Again, all cooking appliances need to have a fire extinguisher within 30 feet that's code, and not this stuff. I know some of you think, well, I'm going to use the little white ones or the little cans or that guy on Instagram. I'm going to kill him. Well, I'm not going to kill him. If I ever meet him, I'm going to beat him up. But he drives me nuts. That prepared hero, I call that declared zero, because that's bug spray. In your own home, if you're familiar with it, maybe, but a renter's not going to be able to put out a fire. That stuff shoots like 9 feet, and no renter's going within 9 feet of a fire. So really important that you're using the big 5-pounders like this one right here. I just saw this advertising photo for a property in Cape Cod, and I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what you want. This is covering the kitchen, and it's covering the grill if they need to. It's a big 5-pound thing. It's going to shoot 20 feet. It's got a lot of power behind it. And as the homeowner, you want to give your guests the right tool to put out the fire. That's the whole goal here. because the last thing any of you want to do is be calling the next guest going, I'm sorry, I cheaped out. I bought a little can of prepared hero and put it on top of the fridge. My guest didn't see it. They had a fire. They couldn't put it out. And so now my property's not available to rent. My insurance company is not helping me. This is a disaster. I don't know what to do. No, put the big 5-pounder in, let the guest get the fire put out. These are all examples. Everybody's doing it. I see this all the time. Again, you won't notice them after a while, but they're there. The reason I love these is because they're placed near the door. The guest gets to the door, they have their exit, they can feel safe, but now they can grab this, turn around, and put out the fire. So near an exit point is a really important one. Next one are bunk beds. We have so many incidents going on with bunk beds. I've got a cheering collection out there. Tyann, the queen of vacation rentals, she's always helping me out with these. We spot these and we speak up. Speak up. When you see these in social media, when you see someone going on Facebook going, I've just listed my home, isn't it awesome? And you see this, speak up and go, no, it's not awesome. You're going to hurt somebody. 70,000 bunk bed injuries last year that required hospitalization. 3,000 of them were for kids getting hit in the face with ceiling fans. It's not a good situation, and it's easily preventable. And it's all this, going back to that property with all the fancy stuff, all the bowling alley and all that. It's this heads and beds type of thing. Let's pack as many people in there. So they're taking a room that was designed for a twin bed and putting 2 bunk beds in there and not going, hey, wait a minute, we got to remove the ceiling fan. And I see it all over the place. Here it is here. Here it is here. Even in the log bed, bunk bedrooms. The kid sits up in bed he's not familiar with. Generally speaking, they don't have bunk beds at home, and then they come stay in a vacation rental. They're not familiar with it. They wake up to go to the bathroom and wham, slammed right in the face. I heard about one of these on Friday last week, and that's the exact scenario. My son got up at 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom. We heard terrible screaming. We didn't know what was going on. We went in the room. It was a mess. There was liquid. We didn't know what it was. It turned out it was blood. It was a disaster, and it's because he got hit in the face with the ceiling fan. So, and some of the companies that are out there, I'm going to pick on this company that are advertising this stuff. This is an advertisement, by the way, for bunk beds for vacation rentals. I'm like, no, stop. And you see companies doing this, speak up and go, this isn't okay. We got to stop doing that. Some of you may have been, there was a conference in February and heard about this. This was also points out something from a design point of view. You got to be careful about some of the products that are out there that designers are using. Those neon butterfly lights over there that are made in a country far from here caught on fire and actually burned that vacation rental down. I would have gone with a mural on the wall versus the lights. I stayed at a rental property, a ski property in Maine not long ago, and they had one of the neon things, and the box for plugging it in was behind the couch. I reached down. I was just curious to see where it was made, what it was like. I couldn't even touch it. It was so hot. So be careful with some of the products that you're seeing out there that look really cool and fun to use, because some of them are extremely dangerous, haven't been tested, and certainly shouldn't be in an environment where they're not getting checked by the guests a lot. The other big one is egress. That's not okay right there. There's no egress for that bunk bedroom. The kids are in there. I'm not trying to be mean or gross or freak you out, but that's a coffin. You're putting the kids in there, closing the door, and if there's a fire, there's no way out for them. Same scenario here. I see this all the time. Again, people are putting as many beds, big beds, queens and kings in bedrooms that were never designed for them. And that's a really big issue. Code requires that if a bedroom does not have a sprinkler system, a fire sprinkler system, which most short-term rentals don't have, that there needs to be 2 points of exit, one to the exterior of the property, one through a bedroom door. So in this space here, the only egress points, because it's not a sprinkler, is the main bedroom door. Hopefully the guests will get enough notification and they can walk out of the house. But the backup is they're going to go out that window, and code says it can't be blocked. You can't obstruct the egress window for people to escape. And you might think, well, I'm healthy, I'm going to get out of there. If that's fine in your own home, if that's your plan, that's great. But are you counting on 65-year-old grandma? Are you counting on 25-year-old Bobby who got injured playing soccer and his leg's broken and now he's staying in this vacation home? How's he getting out? So you've got to count on that and reflect on the fact that code is there for a reason. While we're here real quick, I want to point out another thing, because this is a presentation for designers. I see this all the time. This drives me crazy. How do I plug in and charge my cell phone? This is the same thing going on in the property I'm staying in. The outlets are behind the bed. There's such a huge opportunity here to have, and I know Minoan sells them and you get them through them, having those remote outlets for the guest to charge. The guest shouldn't have to move furniture to charge their cell phone. We know they're bringing stuff with them. Make it easy for them so they're not moving furniture. We've actually seen some injuries from people moving furniture just to gain access to electric outlets. This is another egress issue. You can't do this. I get it. It's beautiful. I want to stay there, except I'm not getting out that window. I'm 6'5". I'm not climbing on that bed in smoke. So just a few more examples. Again, things you can't do. This is an example on the right of what you can do, but we can't be blocking the windows. Fire pits are a big problem. I've seen a lot of incidents with them. The incidents that we have with fire pits aren't from what you would expect. They're not like the fire pits catching the side of the house on fire. It's actually people falling into them. Horseplay, kids trying to roast marshmallows. That's not the kind of fire pit that you roast marshmallows around. And yet in the book that came with this house, it was encouraged. But if you read the instructions for this fireplace, it specifically says don't cook food on this. It's not designed for that. And then you've got this trip hazard with the gas line going in there. So we're even going that much further to make it easy for people to trip and fall into these type of things. I talked about furniture tip overs before. I get it. You order something from Wayfair, you order something from IKEA, you order something through Minoan, you want to get these furnishings in your property, and you're in a rush and you put them up. There's no time to secure it to the wall. You will learn hard how you wish you had that time when you get a call from a guest saying the dresser just fell on somebody. There was a TV that tipped over on a child, a 3-year-old child at a short-term rental in Orlando 2 weeks ago. It's a pretty serious incident. They've already filed a lawsuit on that. So trust me, take the time. It came with the package on the back. The TVs come with the packages. My belief is wherever you can, secure those TVs to the wall. There should never be a TV just on top of a dresser, on top of a piece of furniture. Get the right hardware to secure it to the wall wherever you can, just knowing that that's such a big problem. Open flame devices are another one. And believe it or not, I'm not even a fan of these LED candles anymore either, because we've actually seen LED candles catch on fire. We've seen, and I have people who tell me all the time, yeah, that's happened to us. The guest tried to light the LED candle because they didn't know that that's what they were. So my belief is just try and keep the candles out, put candles in your own home. I've never heard of a guest leaving a bad review because we checked in and it was a great house, but you didn't have any candles. We're not coming back to stay with you again. That doesn't happen. You're not going to lose people over that. Use it for the marketing photos and get them out of there. These things too, I see these all the time. This is like the hot new trend. We want to make it comfortable for our guests outside in the evening. These things come with so many warnings and dangerous information that goes along with it. I mean, the instruction manual is like 49 pages. Don't put it within close to this. Don't put it within that. I'm going to save you from the graphic photos of people who've been burned and injured by these recently at short-term rentals. I don't like them there. I don't think they belong there. I was at a restaurant recently. They made all of us move 10 feet away while they lit it because they got how serious it was. So what are some of the principles of designing a property for vacation rentals? Well, first, remove this image from your mind. This isn't it. This is what the image is we always have. The happy, wonderful family is showing up at the rental property. Easygoing people, they're going to check in, they're going to check out, everything's going to go great. Everybody's going to be happy. That's not how it goes down. And this is just an example of it. That's LaTanya over there. She died on Christmas Eve at a vacation rental in Panama City Beach. During the daytime, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she couldn't escape the property. And the reason she couldn't escape is because she weighs over 300 pounds. Our guests come in all forms, sizes, ages. You've got to understand it's the general public coming to stay in these properties, and you need to prepare for the fact that it is the general public, people you've never meet, people you may never meet, people you may never see again. And the reason she died was because the grill was under the deck. Her husband was down there grilling under the deck. That grill doesn't belong there, by the way. So vacation brain is real. If you follow me on Instagram, I've been doing some segments recently where I interview random people and ask them about vacation brain, and they just laugh. I was at a restaurant in Idaho recently. I asked this guy about vacation brain. He's like, "Oh my God, people walk into our restaurant. We know they're on vacation brain. They're just stumbling around. They're picking stuff up. We're like, what do you want? What are you doing?" "Oh, well, I think we want to get some food." And like, "All right, well, back at the front, it said there was a sign, wait for a hostess." "Oh, we're so sorry." And then they go back. Vacation brain is a huge problem, and we need to identify that it really exists. And these people who are showing up, they're exhausted, they're driving a long way, airport delays, kids screaming and crying in the cars. There's a picture on the Outer Banks. If you've ever been to the Outer Banks on Saturday, oh my gosh, it's the worst traffic nightmare there is. So there's all these different things that are going on. And so when they show up at the property, they need to be welcomed in a way that's safe. Reality is, these are both examples of what you do. If you're going to invite people over to your house for dinner, you greet them at the door, right? These are your guests. These are people you care about. My wife and I had someone over for dinner the other day. I was watching for when she arrived. I made sure the outside lights were on. When she showed up, I pointed out to her that there's a little trip hazard on a stone walkway. I went down and I made sure she got into our home safely. I welcomed her. I made sure everything went well. That's what we do. Yet in short-term rentals, these people, generally speaking, are showing up all by themselves with nobody. They're confused. And that's where we see the most amount of incidents. 60% of all insurance claims from slips, trips, and falls occur within the first hour of arrival. Lights weren't working, lights aren't coming on, there's trip hazards in the walkway. It only takes the thickness of a nickel. Guests are having to use their cell phone as a light to get out of the car with their luggage, to remember the code, yelling at their husband. The kids are going, "We're hungry." Dad's going, "I got to get to the grocery store." It's all a mess. It's not like this. And so we've got to make sure we're addressing it, because in the other hospitality side of the industry, hotels, greetings are well set up. When you check onto a cruise ship, they even have a whole line of people welcoming you. So just remember, as you're designing and setting these properties up, the general public's coming in and they're not getting any help. And it's not just directions that you've typed out that you think are going to help them. The other thing we need to account for is alcohol. And I'm just noticing for the first time, this was a stock photo I got. I don't know why the lady who's pregnant has a beer, but we'll fix this photo for the next presentation. But alcohol is a really big problem. There was a survey that was done recently that showed that 75% of people acknowledge they're going to get intoxicated on vacation. So they don't, and half of them say they don't get drunk in their own home. So they're going to come to a rental property that they're not familiar with, your property, and get drunk. And what have you done to set up the property safely? Finally, we've got to remember that safety is becoming much more important to the next generations coming up. If you take a look, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, safety is second below cost, but take a look at what Gen Z's got going on. And we're seeing that in some of the bookings out there with marketing of properties that are safe. The younger guys are going, "Hey, wait a minute, safety is important to me. I've seen the bad rap that some of these properties are getting. I want to stay in a property that's safer." And the surveys show that. So addressing safety and making safety important in the properties goes a long way. We also have to, again, recognize that there's a lot of products that are in these short-term rentals that were never designed for commercial use. This is the grill instructions, 49 pages long. No renter is going to read this. So getting a grill that's easy to operate, and not only easy to operate, but you've done things to put forth ways that they can understand how to operate it easier, is really important. So what are some tips that I have that you can do to make sure that you're building that trust and making your property safe for your guests? Now, supposedly I'm a designer. I went to the Vacation Rental Design Conference a couple months ago, and I'm like, "Justin, you are a designer." I'm like, "All right, so this is a weak attempt at designing, but it's an example. You can do this type of stuff. You can go to Staples. You can probably, I haven't talked to Minoan about this, but I'm willing to bet they'll come up with a way for you to get these picture frames, put a QR code in, link it to a video, record the video on your cell phone. Hey, this is Justin. This is our fireplace, a gas fireplace. This is how you operate it. Record a 1-minute video, upload it, put a link on it with a QR code. You can do that on Canva for free. Print it off, put it in a nice frame, and put it by the fireplace, put it by the grill. I believe these need to be by places that are very important, not in the welcome book. No one goes to the welcome book for safety information. So stop putting safety information in the welcome book. You can as a backup on a digital guide, but the reality is you need to put safety information that's important in their face and make sure they have easy access to it. If you're a designer, come up with some better signs too, by the way. There's different things you can do. You can have fun with it. You need to. Pool drownings are huge right now. I'm in Phoenix right now because of that. Phoenix has had a tremendous number of pool drownings at short-term rentals this year. Working on some programs to try and stop those. Florida, the numbers are up. Nationwide, we've seen numbers up. And it's because we're not doing enough to address it. Signage can solve a lot of that. Close the gate. But you can come up with and design. You can use different websites to help design things so that it looks better. And there's cool ideas that are out there. I welcome you to come up with other ones. You can do these cool murals if you want to highlight the fire extinguisher, if you want to make it look cool. If you're a waterfront property, beachfront property, I know that there's a couple that Taylor and I are from Maine. You could make it into the back of a lobster on a mural, but have fun with it. Do some design things that make it creative, and it'll draw attention to it because you want them to remember where that fire extinguisher is and use it when they need to. There are fire extinguishers out there. People share this with me all the time. This is safety. There are fire extinguishers out there that you can have designed and make look cool. I just want to highlight, by the way, though, if you do decide to do these are like $100. They're pretty neat. If you want to use a product like this, just remember they don't meet UL safety standards because they don't have the instructions or warnings on it. So you'd have to print that on there if you did it. But there are some different creative ideas you can do. When it comes to bunk beds, you've got to come up and if you don't like the ugly federal warning sign, which is, by the way, is required to be on the bunk bed, print your own, design your own, make one that goes along with your colors. This is one we did at Breezeway. I've been to some professional management companies where they have it in their colors and logos. And you might have one, if you've got the seahorse cottage on Airbnb that you're running on your own, maybe you could put seahorses in there instead of exclamation marks. So have fun with it. Design with it. There are companies out there that are making really good bunk beds now. Icon is one of my favorite that's out there right now, really solid, strong bunk beds. And they make ceiling fans. I'm not talking about the bunk beds here. This was the best photo I could find as an example. I'm not sure necessarily I would go with that one that's directional, but they do make ceiling fans that are enclosed. And these can be easily sourced as well so that you've got the kind. I like the little ones that you can put beside the beds that are facing directly at the kids that are sleeping in there if they need to. But that way they're not getting their fingers in there, they're not getting injured. And this is just an example. I know Minoan's got a much better stuff, but this is what I was talking about, what you can put beside the bed so the guests aren't having to move the furniture, make it easy for them to be able to charge their cell phone so they don't have to pull things out. And then market your property. You can do this afterwards. Don't do this right now, but just search safe Airbnb Waterbury, Vermont. This property comes up. You can see it for yourself. This is the advantage right now. Everybody's saying, well, there's so many rentals. I'm not in first place on Airbnb anymore, or there's so much competition. I'm a professional manager. They manage 200 other homes. How does my home stand out? This is probably the most beneficial tip you can get out of this whole presentation. Market your property with the word safe in it. People are searching for it. This house is fully booked for the summer. This house saw an immediate 9% lift in bookings. People book this house because when they're searching for rental properties that are safe, this one's coming up. You can make your house stand out by marketing it as safe after you've made it safe, after you've put an attention to it. It is the key advantage, and she doesn't have to drop her price. No one asks, can you lower the price on this property? Because she's pushing it as a safe rental property. So I'm easy to get in touch with. I know Minoan's got a link to my safety checklist. You can scan that QR code to get you there as well. Once you're safety certified by Breezeway, you can get a discount on your insurance, by the way, through Proper Insurance. It's the largest discount they get. We have a safety course at Breezeway. It goes much more in depth into everything I talked about, as well as many other things. It takes about 6 to 8 hours to complete online. If you're a Breezeway customer, it's free to access that course. And so I definitely encourage you to get safety certified. Remember, going back to the beginning of this presentation, you can't have that your only training on safety for short-term rentals was in kindergarten where you got a red plastic hat. Take 6 to 8 hours, make your property safe, promote that they're safe, get more bookings, stay out of court, stay out of trouble, and make sure that your guests are only going home with great memories and never with band-aids.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. That was so informative. We did have a couple questions in the chat, but if I'll go through those, and if you have any other right now, please feel free to drop them in. First question is from Sarah. Is there a way to offer guest amenities like bikes, kayaks, etc., at our property in a safe, liability-proof way, or should we not offer them at all?
Yeah, so you can. You can offer watercraft, you can offer golf carts. I don't like golf carts. You can offer all those things, but you have to inspect them at each turnover. So as soon as the guests leave, you have to have it that you've checked the bikes, you've made sure that the brakes work, that there's a helmet provided for the bikes, that the brakes, the seat's not loose, the handlebars aren't loose. You have to have that as part of your regular inspection at turnover. Some people say, I don't want to deal with that each turnover. My cleaner doesn't want to do that. My handyman doesn't want to do it. If that's the position in, then no, don't offer bikes, but you have to inspect them. Same with kayaks. You've got to check them, make sure the paddle's not broken. We've already had 2 tragedies with kayaks at short-term rentals this summer. One of them was because the paddle was broken. The guests went out, and by the time they got down the lake, the wind came up, the paddle broke, he couldn't get back, and unfortunately succumbed to hypothermia. So you want to make sure that you've got information out there that if they're going out, they've got life jackets that fit them, and you've got all those type of things. So as long as you're inspecting them, and that goes for baby gear as well. She didn't ask about that. You want to put pack and plays in your short-term rental? Personally, I never would do that, but if you're going to do that, even if there aren't people coming in with kids that you think of, you got to open that thing up and make sure it works, because if those things collapse and break all the time. I go into short-term rentals all the time where I'm like, do the guests use this? And they're like, we don't think so. And I've opened it and it's already broken. And they're like, oh my gosh, we had no idea. Yeah, you don't want that one on your conscience that you didn't check that.
Okay, the next question was about fire extinguishers. Obviously, they said they're ideal. This is from Ian. But do you have any other suggestions for like fire blankets or sprays or any other fire mitigation measures? For example, we use and love the stovetop fire suppressors that connect magnetically to the underside of range hood or built-in microwaves.
Yeah, fire stuff that I've shared about that on Instagram before. I met them at the NFPA conference. Yes, you can buy products. I'll make sure we get this link over to Minoan so they can share this later. But they do make a product that goes under a range hood or a microwave that will put a fire out. I do like that. I'm not a fan of the sprays or even a fire blanket for a short-term rental. We're not in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, they're aware of fire blankets. Here in the US, they're not. I have yet to see a situation where a guest either went to look for a fire blanket or thought about one. Americans just aren't trained enough on the use of those. So it doesn't hurt that you have one there, but you still want that 5-pounder, because reality is, from what we've seen of fires, less than 5% of guests are actually going to grab a fire extinguisher anyway. And then when they do, they're going to get the big one. So you want to have those big fire extinguishers handy.
Okay, Caitlin says, what kind of grills do you suggest? Is a charcoal grill ideal over a gas grill?
So if you come to Justin Ford short-term rental, I'm gonna have an electric Weber grill. So I get not everybody wants to get, they're $500. Not everybody wants to cook on an electric grill. And I'm fine with propane grills. I do like the Blackstone ones. My friend Caleb Hannon with Stay Lake Norman, they've switched their property management company completely to the Blackstone grills. They're still propane, but it's a closed griddle over the top. And renters do like those. They're becoming very popular. I saw an Instagram video this morning on how to cook popcorn on them. But at least the flame is not in their face. So yeah, I'd stay away from charcoal. The only time I like charcoal is I see it a lot in the Smoky Mountains. It's like what the hotels and state parks do. If you're going to put a charcoal grill in the ground, it's in a cement block, the guests can't move it. The reason the hotels and park services use those, by the way, is they're pretty brainless and they keep people out of trouble. So you could certainly do that if you wanted a charcoal grill and you wanted to secure it somewhere. Oop, you muted yourself, Taylor. So.
Uh-oh, sorry. It's Kate says, can you re-say the name of that grill again that you recommend?
Yeah, they're Blackstone. I've seen them in a lot of like True Value hardware stores. Weber's come out with an adaptation now to put that on there. I'm out here on the West Coast and I see them in a lot of places. I bet you Minoan can find you one too.
And then Jules says hurricane policies. When do you make guests leave?
Yeah, hurricanes, tsunamis. I just saw an article that the west coast of the United States, Oregon, Washington's due for a big tsunami. I was actually staying in a rental recently, and the siren went off in the middle of the night, and I'm like, "What the heck is that?" I thought it was a train whistle. It was the tsunami whistle. Hurricanes and tsunamis, wildfires, all that type of stuff. You want to have really good guest communication. Follow exactly what the government advice is. Start telling people ahead of time if they know. Forecasting is really good now. If next week there's a hurricane coming to the east coast of the U.S., here it is, Wednesday, you're seeing that information. I'd start communicating with the guests now going, we haven't heard of anything yet, but we just want to make sure you've seen the news. What we've seen is that there's a potential for a hurricane to come up the east coast. If anything changes, we'll let you know, but you should be starting to watch this. This is beyond our control. Just get them involved with that process.
Dawn and Carolina both have questions about fire pits. Dawn says fire pits are so popular. Is there a way to make them safe for guests? And kind of the follow-up to that, are below ground fire pits okay, or are those also a really bad idea?
Yeah, I don't like fire pits that are at ground level or sunken into the ground. That makes it all that much easier. I like a fire pit that's at least 20 feet away from the house. I prefer wood over gas. In the situation that the wood fire pit is surrounded by like crushed rock, the seating set away from it, it's not easy for them to move in closer. You've got a water source, whether it's a bucket. That property that I showed you in Vermont, she actually has five-gallon bucket filled with water. There's a rock in the bottom so that it weights it down. And then she actually spray painted a QR code on that bucket that says it links to fire service warnings about whether you can even have one that day. So I thought that was pretty cool. But she's got that bucket that's nearby for them to extinguish the fire with. You want to make sure that it's well extinguished. Gas fire pits, I see them. I was in Nashville recently. Yeah, they've got them on the tall and skinnies up on the roof. That's okay as long as you've got good warnings in place and it's easy to operate. They shouldn't have the kind where they put the key in, turn the gas on, and then you're giving them an igniter to light it. I was at a hotel. They don't even let you within 30 feet at a hotel when they're lighting those things. And yet we're letting someone we've never met do that. I don't like those at short-term rentals. You should work to try and remove those if you can.
Kathy says, what about windows? I have an old house and most of them are painted shut. I'd be willing to replace a few, but can't afford to replace all of them.
Yeah, so that's one of the messages that I'm giving here in Phoenix today. You've got to do that. You've got to walk into a rental property bedroom that you're hosting people in, whether or not it's your rental property or you're managing it, and you've got to say, what happens in a fire? How do people get out? And if you can't figure out and easily get out, you shouldn't be putting your guests in there. I get it. Windows are painted shut. You can use a razor blade to break the seal on it, but every single window should be easily open for egress in any bedroom, any sleeping area. Think about it. These people are waking up. They don't know where they are. They don't have much time. You have less than 3 minutes to get out in a fire because all the chemicals and all the furniture products that are made today, it's different than it was 30 years ago. And all of that stuff creates toxic smokes. When I was first became a firefighter, we just washed our gear at home after a fire. Now, the fire service recommends they have to go in for all this special cleaning because whenever firefighters are exposed to fire, there's so many chemicals in the air now. And think about your guests being exposed to that. So they need a quick and easy way out. I'm not telling you to put new windows in, but you've got to make those windows work much easier.
Beverly asks, is there an outdoor pizza oven you recommend?
I have not run into that yet. I was at the folks in Tennessee or Georgia, excuse me, that have the really cool domes and the mirror house, the Bolt family treehouse, and they have those pizza ovens out there. And I was looking at those. They seem pretty safe to me. I like those. As long as you've got clear instructions on how to operate them and just keep them away from the house. I couldn't necessarily see a problem that concerned me about them.
We do sell a few of those. I think it's through Crate and Barrel. So you can
Yeah, those are
switch
cool.
on those. Okay, do we have any other questions? It looks like I got to everyone in the chat. If we do not, thank you so much, Justin, for sharing your expertise with us today. Everyone, we will be emailing you a copy of Breezeway's vacation rental safety checklist, as Justin mentioned, and there's a QR code there to get safety certified, plus a list of recommended safety-oriented products that are available at a discount through Minoan. And if you're not a Minoan member, you will get a link to sign up for a free Minoan membership and also get that checklist. So yeah, we're excited to see how you guys improve the safety of your properties after this. Uh-oh, it looks like we have a few other questions maybe that came in. Someone said something about a waiver, guest waivers. Do you have
Yeah,
anything about that?
you can't sign your life away. It's not possible. Someone's injured or killed in your rental property, that rental agreement means absolutely nothing. All they have to do is prove neglect. I will tell you, I don't do this line of work. I won't get into this line of work. I'm wearing a white shirt. I wear a white hat, not a black hat. There are people who are now on the other side of it. I call them the black hat, black shirt, expert witnesses. They come in and say that should have been taken care of. They're getting paid 30 grand an hour to testify against you in court when you have incidents happen. If you have kids looking for a job right now, one of the hottest growing jobs that you can do is a forensic architect. That's what these law firms use. They can come on your Airbnb listing and measure and see that your handrail is an inch too short. They settle the claim before it even got to you, just by looking at the listing stuff. So technology's out there. You've got to dot your I's and cross your T's and know that you can't say, well, you signed it agreement, so we're not liable. No, only the person who signed the agreement might have a little bit of protection against, but the other 16 people staying in your rental property who especially didn't sign anything. That's why I say with signage, you want to use signage for the most important stuff. Stop using signs that say take off your shoes, quiet hours after 10, parking here. Use signs for important things, like don't use this fire pit if it's blowing windy. If you're going to use the hot tub, talk to your doctor if you're pregnant, heart conditions. Use the signage for the most important stuff, not the mundane stuff, so that you get people's attention.
Awesome. Great advice. And yes, we will be following up with his safety checklist and some products. So we're here if anyone has any questions, but thank you so much again, Justin. This was so helpful.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Thanks, guys.